Just a quick note before this free video. If you click like and subscribe, I'd be very thankful. All right, you got a lot of notes on WBD.
Well, it's not so much notes, but it's like kind of like what's going on. I mean, it was interesting because, you know, I watched the interview with Tony Khan the other day, and it really, the thing that I really didn't, I mean, that subject didn't come up, and maybe it will today, but the future, you know, because not just the sale, but the aspect of the streaming when it comes to AEW is really, there's a lot of major questions right now, you know, because the streaming is obviously, you know, I mean, it's one of those silly things, you know, that it's because we don't have the real numbers, you know, every single week, you know, although we have a pretty decent idea of how it does. You know, there's always all these debates that are kind of like a waste of time. I don't know why people don't say, well, golly, if they're doing no numbers, then WWE must be doing no numbers, and the NBA must be doing no numbers, and the NHL must be doing no numbers, and it must be like a complete waste of money, you know, like that, because the only numbers you're going to get are the super blockbuster shows, or, you know, I mean, you can get Netflix numbers, which is a story we'll get to later, and you know, if it's top 10, you know, on Netflix. And aside from that, you're going to get NFL and sports. You're going to get NFL numbers. There's no UFC numbers on streaming that are ever released. And look at how much, you know, Paramount just paid $1.1 billion per year for 7 years for UFC rights, which is 100% streaming. And obviously, they must believe that there's a giant streaming audience if they paid that much money for it. But by the arguments of these people, well, we don't have any week by week numbers, so how do we know? It's like, you know, like, hey, look, you know, you know, WBD, a large part of that $185 million a year deal was the idea that it would do strong numbers on streaming, and a lot of their research showed that it would, based on the fact that AEW fans spent more money on subscriptions to streaming services than fans of any other sport. Now, Tony mentioned that on the interview. I want to make a point that was from a WBD survey. It was not an AEW survey, and it was also well over a year ago. And obviously, in the last year, many things have changed. It could be bigger. It could be smaller. It doesn't necessarily mean it's the most today. It was at the time they were doing the negotiations, and that was a big part of it, was the HBO Max thing, and the fact that HBO Max did, in fact, start a pay-per-view division specifically for AEW. You know, I mean, they didn't have one before. So the belief, obviously, is that they can't be inconsequential, because if they were inconsequential, they would have never opened up this pay-per-view division, because they would go, this thing's a flop. It doesn't work. But, you know, week by week numbers, do we know them? Of course not. But the thing is what of the future? Because, you know, there's a split coming, you know, or there's a sale coming, and the sale, who knows what's going to happen with the sale. If the sale comes and Paramount buys it, which is today's rumor, you know, everyone in the world has been talking about it, because the key to the TV, obviously, is the control of CNN, which is a ridiculously giant news story. Whoever gets control of that and can control that platform, I mean, that's huge. But there's these entertainment stations that have a legacy and things like that. Maybe they want them, maybe they don't. Maybe they die on the vine, you know, in the years to come, because, you know, these stations, the exposure and everything like that, the availability of the stations is continuing to decline. I just found out, I think we just talked about it, was that the number for ESPN actually just said that their number is 61 million homes, and TBS and TNT and ESPN, the numbers are usually pretty close, within a few 100,000. So that probably means, you know, we used to get these numbers constantly, and because of a lot of crackdowns and things by Nielsen, we don't get them nearly with as much detail or as quickly. But that probably means that the number of homes that TBS and TNT are in is about 61 million. HBO Max is in 58 million. There's about a 19, 20 million crossover that has both. The other, you know, majority of both is exclusive. Like one, you know, people who have HBO Max, you know, most of them, the majority of them do not watch cable. or do not have access to TBS and TNT, so it's a completely different audience. So both the cable audience, I'm sure the cable audience is still larger, although the last poll that we did had it even, but that's, our poll. It's not scientific. But, the numbers are very significant for both. And the TBS TNT stuff, those homes are going to continue to decline, millions every year, 1 million, 2 million each year or whatever. That's going to get smaller. And as it gets smaller, the streaming numbers will either stay the same or grow. And the streaming eventually is going to be more important, even if it is not today. The long term is that basically tells you how important this HBO Max thing is, and that one of the strengths of being an HBO Max is it's a top 10 streaming service as far as entertainment and everything like that goes. It's not not number one. YouTube's number one, but that doesn't necessarily mean a show on YouTube is going to be number one because there's more people who get it, because that's not actually the case. But it's a contender. It and Peacock are about the same level. It's ahead of ESPN, ESPN Plus or ESPN Unlimited. Obviously well behind Netflix. Well behind.
Are you one of those youngsters today who listens to Spotify? I don't even know what it is, but I do know this: all of our podcasts are available at Spotify. You can head up right now and sign up. The easiest way to do so, f4wonline.com/Spotify. And for just $9.99 per month, you can listen to 84 podcasts on any given month. 84! 2 to 3 podcasts every single day covering pro wrestling and mixed martial arts. And if you think about $9.99 per month, that's just pennies per day. So check it out today on Spotify. That's f4wonline.com/Spotify. f4wonline.com/Spotify.